Hi everyone, I'm Jay Monet and you're not watching Disney Channel. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be playing 21 Questions Writers Edition. One of my friends suggested I play 21 questions, so I googled questions you would ask writers and wrote down the ones that I wanted to answer. If you want to turn this into a tag game, feel free. I'll provide the 21 questions down in the description box and tag me if you do this video as well. Without further ado, let's get started. The first question is, what genre form do you write? Like I said in my previous video, I write both poetry and fiction. When did you first realize you wanted to be a writer? I think I first realized it when I was in, I want to say, 2nd grade. I was at an elementary school where they had this little poetry club where you could write your own poems and then present them one night in front of your family and friends. That was the first time I wrote a poem that wasn't for class, and I'm pretty sure in 1st grade we had to write acrostic poems, but this was the first serious poem that I wrote. And then I began writing fiction in undergrad. During my final semester, I had one more English elective to take, so I decided to take Intro to Writing Fiction, and I wrote a short story, my first short story. How old were you when you wrote your first story or poem? Like I said before, my first real poem was in the 3rd grade, and technically my first story was a children's book. It was it was literally plagiarized version of Powerpuff Girls, because I was obsessed with Powerpuff Girls, but I wrote that in 2nd grade. I don't want to talk about that, but my first real, true, good story was in undergrad. What genre or genres do you read? I read historical fiction, which is what I used to really be obsessed with when I was a kid and a teenager. I read dystopian novels, Hunger Games, the Unwind trilogy, or it's not trilogy, it's 4 books now, the Unwind series. I read realistic fiction, or what people call contemporary fiction. Poetry, obviously. I read mystery thrillers, detective fiction, horror, obviously. I don't really read sci-fi, but I do read Octavia E. Butler's books, which is sci-fi, so she gets a pass. Whatever genre Toni Morrison is considered under. I read a lot of Black literature, especially by Black women authors. That's mostly what I read. I don't really read romance either. I'm not big on fantasy. There's some that I read, but for the most part I don't read high fantasy and all that. What do you like to do when you're not writing? Sleep. I like to take naps. But seriously, I like skating. I like watching movies and binge watching shows. I spend a lot of time on YouTube. I also like doing my makeup. And those are mostly what I do when I'm not writing. Have you always wanted to be a writer? Yes, but it's always been a writer and something else at the same time, but writing has always been something I wanted to do. What advice would you give a new writer, someone just starting out? I would say don't compare yourself to other writers and where they're at. I know I've seen people say, Toni Morrison was this age before she published a novel, her first novel, and this, then, and go at your own pace. It's okay to take inspiration from other writers, as long as it's not plagiarism. And I would also say revise, and edit. How do you come up with the titles to your books? I know with my poems, sometimes I get the titles from a line in my poem. Sometimes I just come up with the poem and then come up with the title and then write the poem from that title. For my stories and my novels, I don't really know how I come up with those. Titles. Titles is usually hard. Like, I like to suggest to people, just find a line or a word that really stands out in your work, and then that can be your title if it like really fits with the story or the poem. What got you into writing? For poetry, my mom used to write poetry, so that made me want to write poetry as well. For fiction, I just wanted to try something new. I'm pretty sure I said this in my previous video that I just wanted to try writing in new genres, new forms. So I just started writing fiction and I've been doing it ever since. What is the most difficult part about writing for you? Starting it sometimes, getting it done, sometimes coming up with an idea to write. But mostly getting it done. On a typical day, how much time do you spend writing? I wouldn't say that I have like an average time when I'm writing. Sometimes I write something in one sitting, sometimes it's over a few days, a few weeks. Yeah. It depends on what I'm writing and how long it has to be. So I don't really have like a set amount of time that I leave for the day to get some writing done. Favorite authors? Toni Morrison's my favorite author. Favorite fiction author, really. Growing up, a couple of my favorite authors were Sharon M. Draper. She wrote the Hazelwood High trilogy, which is really good, and another trilogy, I forgot what it's called, but it has like November Blues as like one of the books. Her books are like really good. Romeo and Julio, I have a lot of her books. And another one growing up was Laurie Halse Anderson. Another favorite writer, I would say, let me see. Well, Edgar Allan Poe. I love Edgar Allan Poe. I have 3 Funko Pops. It's all the same Edgar. He's just holding something different in each one. Another favorite author, I would say. Favorite poets are Maya Angelou, Gwendolyn Brooks, Edgar Allan Poe again. Yeah, those are some of my favorite writers. There are a bunch more, but that's the main ones. Authors who influence you: Poe and Toni Morrison, obviously. Also, as you can see by my tattoos, Phenomenal Woman and Still I Rise, Maya Angelou. If you had the opportunity to live anywhere in the world for a year while writing a book that took place in that same setting, where would you choose? Spain. Send me to Spain. If I could live in Spain for a year, that'd be amazing. Recently I heard about this place called Alicante, Spain. I think that's what it's called, Alicante. Beautiful area. That's one place that I really want to go to. And if I could spend a year there and just write, I would love that. Do you like audiobooks, physical books, or ebooks better? Physical books. It's easier for me to read through physical books than reading on a screen. However, I do have a lot of ebooks. I was gifted a Nook for either Christmas or my birthday when I was in the 7th grade, I want to say, from my mom. And I ended up buying a lot of ebooks and series that are like really long, like the Pretty Little Liars series. I have all the books, but only a few of them are physical copy. Most of them are ebooks because there's so many in the series. and it was easier to have ebooks for some of the books, especially since some of them weren't in the store, and I like going to Barnes & Noble a lot, like the physical store, as opposed to just buying the books online and have them delivered to my house. I'm not an audiobook person. I don't think I could sit through and just listen to a book being told to me. I'd rather just read it for myself. What is your favorite genre to read and why? I don't have a favorite genre. Like I said earlier, I read a lot of different genres. I also don't have a favorite genre to write as well. What does being a successful author look like to you? Being traditionally published and having a lot of people enjoy your writing, and having a big culture surrounding your writing, and being well known and talked about a lot for good reasons. If you could sit down with any living author, who would they be and what would you ask them? I would sit down with Sharon M. Draper and ask her how she feels about her impact with the young adult genre. A lot of people mostly focus on young adult books written by white authors, like especially like John Green, but Sharon M. Draper wrote a lot of books, young adult books, for black teens and black preteens, and her writing was pivotal for me growing up. So I would like to talk to her about her role in the YA genre and how she came up with her stories and her impact with young black readers. And the final question, why do you write? I write because I'm good at it and I really enjoy writing. Coming up with stories is fun and it's therapeutic as well. That is it. Those are 21 questions, Writer's Edition. Thanks for stopping by. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.